How's it going, Guardians? And if you clicked on this video, then you are obviously wondering about Solar 3.0. What's it going to be like, and what should I use? And luckily for you, I have some builds made for all three classes that you can go and check out, and link in the description down below. But pretty much we are going to be testing out synergies between certain weapons and armor pieces. Now, how are we going to be doing this without Solar 3.0 actually being out? Luckily, the Hunter has us covered here. Thanks to this hunter ability called Burning Edge, which allows you to get your dodge back when enemies are set ablaze, I can actually sit here and test out different things that might actually synergize pretty well with Solar 3.0, because this is the only perk in the game that actually works with people who are burning, which I figure with something like Solar 3.0, there's going to be a lot of enemies that are going to be burning. Now, I will have timestamps in here for just the weapons, for just the armor, and for the mod that I'm going to discuss. If you're interested in this jumping forward, then feel free to look in the description again and jump to where you need to. But we're going to start off with the weapons list first. The first gun we're going to start with is Prometheus Lens, an exotic trace rifle that's actually getting a buff next season, so it's going to be very nice and should synergize pretty well with Solar 3.0. Now, as you can see here, I use my dodge ability, and when I beam Carl, the whole entire beam is considered burn damage, even though it doesn't directly cause DOT or a burning effect on him. Now, I tested this multiple times, and you see how quickly I'm getting my dodge back. And then I also want to test the AoE field that it makes. And yes, the AoE field also recharges my dodge ability. So this next one's pretty interesting. It's the arc grenade launcher, the Prospector, and it does set enemies ablaze. So I wanted to test it and see if it actually worked. And yes, it does. As you can see here on Carl, when I hit him a couple times, I'm going to get my dodge back pretty quickly. This can be pretty useful in both arc and solar builds, so definitely look out for this one. Moving right along, we're going to be talking about Tiku's Divination. And the thing about Tiku is that the hip fire that you can do with the arrows will actually set people ablaze, but it doesn't cause any damage to them. There is no DOT or anything from that. Instead, what's going to end up happening is when you hit them, it's going to count it as one tick of damage, even if you hit them with all three arrows. But it will give you back your class ability energy. So this means that the hipfire from Tiku's actually counts as burn damage and can synergize with different perks and powers that will be coming out with Solar 3.0. I don't know about you, but this actually seems pretty interesting. I always loved this bow, and I might have to give it a try again. Now, Two-Tailed Fox. This one's an interesting one that shoots double rockets. One will be suppressing, and one will catch enemies ablaze. So that being said, obviously I had to come and test it, and it works pretty much exactly as you would think. People were using this for the suppressing effects when Void 3.0 came out, but if you watch right here on Carl, the DOT from the fire does count as burn damage. So, I mean, this is another launcher and another example of something that might be able to synergize with perks that will be coming with Solar 3.0. Right now, it does synergize with its Hunter Dodge ability, so it should. Up next is the Destiny Toaster Yotun. Now, this is a fusion rifle that takes special, and it's actually pretty good, but doesn't operate the way that I necessarily wanted it to. As you can see there, I did, kill an enemy, but I didn't really get much dodge back. So if I sit here and I shoot Carl with it, as you can see, I do get some dodge back, and it did fill up right there, but not as much as I wanted. And I was wondering why. That's because the initial explosion, the impact damage, doesn't actually recharge or count as burning. Instead, it's the elemental well that it spawns after it hits an enemy that does count as a burning effect. So unfortunately, if Carl or any enemy walks out of the burning field that Yotun will create upon impact, you will no longer get the burning effect. But as you can see right there, as long as if they stay in it, you do kind of get your dodge back. But it's a 50-50 thing. If people are moving around a lot, it's not going to work too well. Well, this is a heavy hitting toaster, I'll say that. So this one doesn't actually cause a burning effect right now, but when the season updates, when season 17 comes out, the hip fire from Skyburner's Oath is supposed to cause burn damage. So although right now it doesn't really do anything and I couldn't really test it, since it does cause burn damage in the future, it's a gun that's worth mentioning. This thing might actually become meta because of how easily it will be able to apply that burn damage. And depending on how much that burn damage is and what kind of crazy interactions we may or may not be able to get going on, it might be something that you should look out for. And that's that for the weapons list. I know it's kind of small, you guys, but I mean, what you gonna do, right? That's the weapons that we have that synergize with Solar 3.0 thus far. I did test the Waveframe launcher, explosive personality, and I also tested the new exotic one, the Deadman, not the Dead Man's Tail, the Dead Messenger, right? And neither of those Waveframes do not actually count as burn damage, unfortunately. I did test Wither Horde, that's blight damage. I tested a bunch of other things, and this is pretty much the only burn damage that there is involving the weapons. But don't worry, we're not done. We're also going to go and check out the different exotic armor pieces that will work. Now, I won't be able to test all of them, but I can test what I can, so let's get into it. Now, the first piece of armor we're going to be looking at is the exotic Sun Bracers. It's a Warlock piece. Now, when you kill someone with your melee attack, right now it's going to be Celestial Fire, which also is getting burn damage in the future. It allows you to throw pretty much an infinite number of solar grenades. You can generally get out about 5 to 7 of them, depending on what your discipline is at. Now, this is going to synergize pretty well with Solar 3.0 because you're going to be causing fields of fiery damage, and that's going to be really great. Unfortunately, unlike the Hunter, I don't really have anything I can recharge to test the actual synergy that may go on with Solar 3.0, and that's only because the Hunter is the only one that has a perk for that. But I figure these will work in very nicely. So the next exotic I'm talking about is the Hunters, and that's the Bombardiers. It does different things depending on which class you're on, but for Solar, it specifically says burns targets. So if you watch right here, I'm going to be killing these guys, and I'll jump up, and there's going to be 2 Nightmare Hounds that are going to run up on me. When I use my dodge, you can hear the bomb explode in the background, and if you watch, it actually recharges my dodge ability, because the Bombardier's burn damage counts for burn damage, and that can synergize really well with Solar 3.0. And the last exotic, Heart of Inmost Light. It's for the Titan. And I love this exotic so much. Pretty much empowers all of your abilities for each ability that you're using. This is actually pretty much the identical build that I am using for my Void 3.0 class, except I'm this on a Solar class and it works out pretty well. So I figured no matter what happens with Solar, or Arc for that matter, this is going to be a go-to exotic for almost every scenario, at least for me, because like I said, the empowerment and the ability spam is this way too amazing. Look at that, I have 2 barriers up at once, no problem. Now, I didn't go over every exotic that can fit into a Solar 3.0 class. There's definitely a lot of honorable mentions I could go to, but these are the 3 exotics that I'm most interested in, and when Solar 3.0 comes out, these are probably the 3 exotics I'm going to work into a build. So that list leaves one category left, that's mods, and this is probably going to be the shortest amongst everything we've talked about today. You may be wondering what mod might actually synergize with Solar 3.0, and it's this mod right here, Burning Cells. Pretty much it gives all Warmind Cell explosions a burning effect. And as you're going to be able to see right here, I'm going to make a Warmind Cell, and then I'm going to pop it, and it's going to give me my dodge back. I do step back, so that way when I use these Bombardiers, I'm not going to directly hit that guy. Now he's on fire. And I got my dodge back. So you can see that Warmind Cells are pretty much, well, Burning Cells is pretty much the only mod in the whole game that directly works with this testing. And so I'm assuming that it'll work pretty well with Solar 3.0 as well. So that's pretty much it, you guys. That's all the testing I got for the day. Hopefully Solar 3.0 comes out here soon. I know we were all waiting for it to be announced on this final TWAB, and it wasn't. Slightly disappointing. But we can always hope for next week, right? If you liked anything you've seen, if you want more videos like this, all that good stuff, like, subscribe, comment. And until next time, Guardians, take care and peace.